There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
Maui Nui is on a mission to help balance axis deer populations for the good of our environment, communities, and food systems on the island of Maui. They've shared over 126,000 pounds of nutrient-dense protein with the Maui community. Secure your spot now. Become a snack subscriber and join in helping to build more resilient food and ecosystems on Maui. Visit MauiNuiVenison.com. That's MauiNui venison.com and use promo code BEAR for 20% off your first order. Outdoor adventure won't wait for engine problems. Things like hard starts, rough performance, and lost fuel economy are often caused by fuel gum and varnish buildup. Seafoam can help your engine run better and last longer. Simply pour a can in your gas tank. Hunters and anglers rely on Seafoam to keep their engines running the way it should the entire season. Pick up a can of Seafoam today at your local auto parts store or visit seafoamworks.com to learn more. My name is Clay Newcomb, and this is a production of the Bear Grease podcast called The Bear Grease Render, where we render down, dive deeper, and look behind the scenes of the actual Bear Grease podcast. Presented by FHF Gear, American-made, purpose-built hunting and fishing gear that's designed to be as rugged as the places we explore. So, hey, we're gonna do it a little different this time. I'm going to introduce everybody.
We'll do it in Spanish.
But see, we're going to do it in Spanish.
Please introduce me in French.
We're going to talk about Donnie Baker first.
We're going to go right in.
Usually the sequence of the Bear Grease Render is I introduce people, we chit-chat, we small talk, and then we like fight off the deep desire to talk about the thing we're all here to talk about. But we're not going to do that today. We're going to dive right in. I do have this is a great crew. This is an exciting crew to have. Everybody's all been here, but it's not the standard crew. I've got to my left, Brent Reeves. And in the building is Waylon, the Wonder Dog.
Waylon the Wonder Hound.
Named after Waylon Jennings.
That's him right
Tree
there.
and Walker.
Yes. We just got back from Kansas. He was treeing Kansas coons.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Waylon and Brent are here. Dr. Misty Newcomb, so great to have you.
Good to be here.
Yes. It's a long story, but you're here.
I'm happy I'm here.
Yes. Great. to your left, story. My neighbor, hero, and national pastured poultry icon, Terrell Spencer, also known as Spence, my neighbor. Good to have you, brother.
Howdy.
Can I just help for a second? It's pastured. These are not, Spence does not do spiritual ministry to the chickens. They are not pastured.
Not pastured poultry. Pastured poultry. I have a former background in pastured poultry media.
He does. Chicken feeds the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We made a film years ago.
Yeah.
About pastured poultry.
For APA. Yeah.
Yeah. American Pastured Poultry
Producers
Association.
It's a mouthful.
Wow. It's a mouthful. Spence is also, at one time, was the national rooster calling champion of the APPPA.
Yep.
It's recently been, the title has been stripped from him and given to our
was
friend
using
Christian in
steroids?
California.
Just killed his first black bear.
Yes. This is a little bit outside the rails of what we're here to talk about today. That's Terrell Spencer. To Terrell Spencer's left, man, it's like stacked. This is like the dream team. This is like 1994 Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson,
All I was just going to say about the
Larry
Razorbacks,
Bird,
94.
Akeem Olajuwon. We have Joe Wilson with us.
I'm here.
Joe, I've got to introduce you. Like, if you're in this room, like, your life is much bigger than this, but there's like one thing that's connected to you. Joe Wilson of the World Championship Squirrel Cook-Off.
Man, I also live at the Squirrel Dairy.
Okay. You live at the Squirrel Dairy?
We got to talk about Donnie Baker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I got questions.
Yeah. Squirrel Dairy.
Mostly about technique.
It's coming down the tree.
Well, you know what they say about mammalian. You can milk anything. Yep.
There you go.
To your left, my friend.
How can you follow that up?
My friend, James Brandenburg.
Hello?
Head of
Hola,
Arkansas.
I guess.
Yeah, in Spanish. Head of Arkansas BHA.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to call you, just for sake of clarity and simplicity, founder of the Black Bear Bonanza, which isn't entirely true, but you have a great team around you.
We have a great team around
You were
us,
a
for sure.
part of the founding of the Black Bear
He's a
Bonanza.
plank
There we
owner.
go. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
Part of the founding for sure.
Yeah, no, James has he was on the old Bear Hunting Magazine podcast, and I like to talk at James. That's what James is like, a good face. He gives good. James is like a high level corporate exec. You wouldn't know it by looking at
Wow,
him.
James. Wow.
You wouldn't
I know.
know it by
I've
looking
been
at this
promoted.
humble man. No, I'm kidding. No, but for real, James is a high level business exec in the higher ups of American
Industry.
industry.
Captain of industry.
He's a
He'll
captain
be in
of
India
industry.
next week. For
Yeah.
real. Great to have you.
Thank you, sir.
But I was getting at why I like to talk to James. What I'm learning that's going to be relevant in next week's podcast is how, oh, wow, what a rabbit trail.
Yep.
People that are
Bring it
really
back
good in
on.
business are good listeners.
Oh,
James is a good listener.
some people are.
He's also a good talker.
Sometimes.
He's also a good talker. And my name's Clay Newcomb. Man, so Donnie Baker, we're gonna do the order a little bit different. I just want to jump right into it.
Yeah.
I don't want to give a spiel, so I'm not. I want to hear your first impressions.
My impression is I sent Brent Reeves a message the other day telling this was your best work.
Mm-hmm.
Everything leading up to this was fantastic. Great history, amazing stories. But this story, I think, went way deeper than a guy shooting a 204-inch
Yeah.
buck. And I think it gives guidance to all of us in our life, because that buck, as we found out in episode 2, it was just one little thing
Mm-hmm.
that led up to the story. And you could substitute that buck for all kinds of problems in your life.
Mm.
But yeah, I thought it was fantastic. You did a great job. Donnie Baker could be my friend any day.
Yeah. That's what is, there's so many parts of this that are so interesting to me. And I learned this story in the same way, really, that the listener did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is not a story that I grew up with. I didn't know Donnie. I knew very little about his story before I went to his house to interview him. Told him before the podcast, I said, Donnie, I don't know if I can use this or not. It was because I didn't know the whole story. And I was trying to evaluate what story was kind of sitting in front of me. I knew it was interesting. I'm interested in big deer. I'm interested in people that break the law. And I told him that, I said, Donnie, I'm not sure I can use this, but I want to talk to you. And he was like, that's great, Clay. I'm glad to tell a story. You do whatever you got to do. If you can use it, use it. If you can't, no problem.
But it was pretty obvious as you went along, though. I mean, I'm sure as you were talking to him, what was the interesting part about what happened to him? Because I'm sure as you were talking to him, it was, you can sit and talk to somebody and hear a story of them killing a big deer and be like, oh, that's cool. But then as you kind of brought us all along in it and kind of, I mean, what I appreciated about it, to Joe's point, I thought it was your best work that you've done so far. And you helped us see all the different components of it, like a rope that all kind of braided together to make the story of his life. And they all had to be there to get him where he is today.
Yeah.
And we lose that a lot of times when we hear stories about this, or we just see the headline, man poaches giant deer.
Yes.
There's way, way, way more to it.
And see, and that's a good point. And what's interesting, I didn't say it on the first render. I'll say it on this render. I did less in the interview with Donnie Baker than I ever do with someone.
I was wondering that if it all fell together.
Hey, that was his story that he put together all on his own. I mean, sometimes you hear someone's story and people are so close to it and an outside eye comes in and you kind of put it together.
Yep.
And the person hears it and they're like, yeah, that's like that's the way it happened. But maybe there were some conclusions. I don't know. There's some things that you kind of weave together. Donnie Baker I asked Donnie Baker, honestly, one question, and that was, where do you think we should start, Donnie? I intentionally left that in, which I usually would have cut it out. I intentionally left that in because I asked him that, and he started talking, and I was a part of the conversation. Like I asked him specifically about, just questions like, what were you thinking? Did you, I did ask him questions, but I'm telling you, he started talking and he ended, and I talked to him for 2 hours. So you guys heard, I think, 27 minutes of Donnie. These are things on the editorial side that I see. On the first episode, you heard Donnie talk for 27 minutes. The episode was 55 minutes long. So you heard me talk for as long as you heard Donnie talk. Story of Misty's life.
That's actually a pretty good average for Donnie.
On the second episode, we only heard Donnie talk for 22 minutes. So you heard about half of the interview. But that's what made the most sense to me. And even the sequence of it. A lot of times on a story, I have to sequence it. Like maybe they tell something that actually chronologically came at the end,
right,
but that needs to be in the beginning for it to make sense.
It sounded like he was loaded up and ready to fire for a while.
Yeah.
And you become that broadcast that would air it out to like-minded people, and which I think you did well. But he needed to get it out there. Maybe it was to get it out there once and for all, to show people this is who I was, this is who I am, and maybe you don't need to walk down the same road as I walked down.
Yeah.
Which I think that's how I took it personally. Like he was showing us everybody's got a little outlaw in them, and he used it that day, found out he didn't want to be an outlaw anymore.
Yeah.
I think the second he released that arrow,
he
knew. And when he said that in the first episode, Clay, that part, and I texted you this, a part about, I'm sure we've all, shot at a bird on a tree limb.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just like he had cracked open my head and looked inside and like read my life story or something.
Yeah.
I remember, the first animal that I ever killed as a little kid, shooting a BB gun I shouldn't have been shooting in a place I shouldn't have been shooting it, and how I felt. And it just took me right back to that moment. And I was like, I know exactly how he felt when he let that arrow go.
Yeah.
He just had walked up to the edge of something to see if he could do it.
Yeah.
And just in that split second, temptation overcame him and the arrow flew, and he instantly, like when Adam took a bite of the apple.
Yeah.
He knew.
He knew that there was no going back.
He knew there was no.
Now we're going to have to buy clothes.
Yes, dang it.
Well, in that, the analogy of shooting a bird and regretting it immediately probably could be a major literary mechanism in a book
Mm-hmm.
to just describe what all of us have felt, whether you've actually killed an animal or not, but just that instantaneous regret, even in the act of something that you know you can't take back.
I shot that bird. You shoot that bird?
Yep.
I remember shooting that bird, and it was so light that it stayed on the leaf. It's just a little yellow bird. And I remember crying at that bird, going in, grabbing my mom's gravy spoon, digging a hole, putting that little bird in there and saying, I ain't ever going to shoot a bird again. And that lasted about an hour.
Maybe it's yellow bird.
I remember when I heard it just like you, I knew exactly what shooting that bird meant.
Anybody, and a lot of folks could identify with that. And it wasn't even killing the animal. Maybe it was cheating on a test at school, and you get home and you make 100 on it, and you get home and your mama's so proud of you, and then you realize, I didn't do that right. She ain't proud of me. She's proud of that kid that was sitting beside me that I copied off of, which was me. I did that too. People copied off of me in school a lot. They're in prison now.
Spence, what did you think? Just like first impressions.
Yeah, I felt like it was almost cleansing for him. Like, I didn't see it so much he was telling everybody. I felt like more like he was doing it for himself. And I've had stuff that I've done that I'm ashamed of. I mean, we all have. And I think there's just, I've got a church group, and even just a couple years ago going through stuff that had been hidden. And I've seen other guys share that. Like, it's cleansing to get that, to unburden yourself. I don't know. I think I saw it more as Donnie was doing this for Donnie than he was to like clear his name or anything. And that might be me putting my own stuff on it, but
yeah,
that was just initially I just appreciate when people change, and so often people change for the worse. And it's rare to see a grown man just completely change. And it wasn't just that. It's, later he talked about his wife having cancer, and he talked about, he was a knucklehead with as a family. He wasn't leading his family. He was horsing around, not taking it serious. But even that, it's like he got popped again in life. And instead of shrinking back or collapsing in on himself, he kind of rose up. And it's just really admirable to me, So I admired him for that. But.
Yeah. Ms. Newcomb?
Well, I think it's really fascinating to me to see the impact that this story's had on people. And I've wondered a lot, like, why is this story different? Because I do think that not every story that every poacher tells is going to be this endearing, like it's not going to have this impact. And I don't think everyone responds this way. And I don't think that everyone, I think that there's like all these events in Donnie's life that kind of shape a person. And that's what the Donnie that we're hearing from in this podcast is a different person than the Donnie that shot the deer. And there's a whole range of things that happened that produced who's talking on this podcast. And so to me, it's kind of fascinating to watch, honestly, like the power of suffering, and whether that suffering is directly linked to him shooting this deer or not. Like his wife's, that situation, it's not like that is an outcome of this, what he did with the deer.
Yeah.
But it produced something in him, and that changed his perspective of how he saw that part of his life. And I think that, suffering is a very humbling thing. And he did suffer from the deer situation, and he did suffer from these other situations. And I think that humility is something that when you see it in people, you can relinquish a lot of guilt, a lot of blame, you can take it away from them.
It covers over some stuff.
It does. And I don't know why, but I think it does produce something in people if they, depending, because some people get bitter when they suffer. Some people get angry when they suffer. But if you can let it shape you, like a river in a canyon, then it can actually produce something really good. And to me, I think that's the thing that I see inside of this, is that suffering produced something in him that people want, people find endearing. It moves people. And and you can almost, it allows you to look at his life differently than just seeing that thing that happened.
I was going to try to say the same thing you were, but I'm not a doctor.
Well,
Ready to win Mother's Day and cement your reputation as the best gift giver in the family? Give the moms in your life an Aura digital picture frame preloaded with decades of family photos. She'll love looking back on these memories and seeing what you're up to today. Even better, with unlimited storage and an easy-to-use app, you can keep updating mom's frame with new photos, so it's the gift that keeps on giving. And this is not a joke. Juju Newcomb has an Aura frame, and we share photos, and they're incredible. Also, my mother-in-law has one. We have them. They truly are really good, really high quality. The Aura frame is easy to set up. It takes just 2 minutes to set up a frame using the Aura app. It also adjusts the display depending on light levels in the room to maintain the true color of your photos. For real, the digital screen is amazing. Right now, Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. Listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $30 off plus free shipping on their best-selling frame when you use code BEAR, B-E-A-R, BEAR. That's auraframes.com. Use code BEAR at checkout to save. Terms and conditions apply. I've had a Helix Sleep mattress for over 2 years, and it is for sure the nicest mattress that I've ever slept on. I've slept much better in the last 2 years, been more comfortable than I have for my whole life. And that's true. The Helix lineup offers 20 unique mattresses, including the award-winning Luxe Collection, the newly released Helix Elite Collection, a mattress designed for big and tall sleepers, and even a mattress made just for kids. Take the Helix Sleep Quiz and find your perfect mattress in under 2 minutes, and your personalized mattress is shipped straight to your door free of charge. Helix has several different mattress models to choose from, each designed for specific sleep positions and feel preferences. Helix is offering 20% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Go to helixsleep.com/clay and use the code HelixPartner20. This is their best offer yet and won't last long. With Helix, better sleep starts now. The old-timers say that the turkeys start gobbling when the leaves are as big as squirrels' ears and the red buds start popping. And we're about there. And we are there in the South. The Onyx Hunt app is one of my most valuable tools in the spring woods. With tools like coniferous versus deciduous tree distribution layer, you can save time by locating edges or transition areas of mixing habitats from home. Find an area like this with water in close proximity, and more than likely, there will be a gobbling turkey nearby. Knowing the exact boundaries of private ground ensures I stay on the right side of the fence, but can easily find public ground to go see if I can't strike a gobbler. If you do get one to sound off, using compass mode and waypoints will help you pinpoint his exact location, allowing you to move in and make the perfect setup to bring him right into your lap. Download the Onyx Hunt app today. You'll be glad you did. Onyx has a special offer for you. Use code BEARGREASE to receive 20% off your membership at onyxmaps.com/hunt this spring.
is there more?
Well, that's all I was going to say. Is just I think
Okay.
that's the thing that's actually impacting here is
Well,
what that produced.
The theme of human suffering is something that man, since the beginning of time, in all cultures, in all literature, in all movies, in all conversations, it's the theme of mankind.
Yeah.
It's suffering. And it's so ironic because the intent of every morning, every human life, we wake up and we try not to suffer. I mean, we try to do things that are beneficial for our families, that are beneficial for us. We try to avoid suffering. But the ironic thing is that suffering is actually the crucible in which character and all the things that actually matter in life happen. I mean, there's just no way around it.
Well,
And how we respond to that difficult and suffering could be described is not always like the death of someone really close to you. Suffering it's scalable at all levels, scalable to,
It's all relative to what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Exactly. I mean, there's really big macro suffering of like the death of a family member or you have cancer yourself, down to suffering of you don't get to go eat out because you're saving money and
Right.
and you're sacrificing for something, and some people could view that as some level of suffering or whatever. But yeah, what stood out to you, Brent, about it? Just like if you could, okay, let me say this.
Okay.
I have never gotten in one single day, and probably never will again, the amount of text messages from grown men, some of them in this room, who texted me or messaged me, contacted me, saying that they cried in their truck.
About to walk into Lowe's.
Yeah.
It was a little awkward.
I was in the I called you right after. I was still in the driveway and had just listened to it. And I was already getting text messages from other people that don't have your phone number. It's like, this is the best one I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
So when I quit sniveling enough that I can make sense and give you a call, it's such a human story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way you can live on this planet to an adulthood and not be able to identify with hardship and levels of it. If the worst thing that ever happened to that guy was him shooting a 204-inch deer and getting caught,
Being fined $114.
$14.
he would be a happy guy. But that is an insignificant blip. It ain't even a ripple in the hardship of life that he had to go through. And he put all that stuff in perspective. And to me, I was endearing with his navigation of hardship and keeping his eyes focused on his kids. Because kids, to me, that's what I have fought for my whole life, my whole career. I was fighting every day to try to take care of a kid that somebody else wasn't taking care of. And the focus on that is what really stood out to me, because he didn't have every right. No one ever has the right to be bitter. That they have reasons why they're bitter. I don't think you have the right to be bitter. I don't think you earn a right to be bitter and hard and cold. But he had every reason that he could have been that way. But he chose to keep going and fighting through it. And I still hold to my gun. I am so for the law enforcement.
Yes.
That if you plead not guilty to something and then you get found guilty, they ought to try you again for perjury because obviously you lied. I don't think this guy is a poacher. I think he violated the law. I think he's a violator. A poacher to me is somebody that leaves their house with intent to go do it. And I said it on the other render, but that just kept coming back to me, and I don't see him that way. I didn't see it that way at all.
And that being a violator makes him human.
Yep.
Like every one of us in this room is a violator. Everyone that listened to this podcast is a violator.
Yeah.
And
Have you broke chicken laws, Spence?
I've broke a lot of laws.
Is there anything that you want to talk about?
The fifth, you not have to incriminate yourself.
No, back up.
Yeah, it's there's I don't know. It just, and that's the humanity, right? Like I think the stories that touch us on that deep level, like some of this remind me of the Book of Job. You know, and you see a guy rise up, and it's identifiable. You know, a guy that. You know, you mentioned David and Bathsheba or sin crouching at your door. We've all done that, whether it's a test or whether it's something in business. And as soon as or the bird, whatever, we've all done that. And I think it's rare you hear a story that's just so identifiable and it ends up going the right way. And I think for me, when I heard Donnie's story, it was the reason it touched me is because that's how I would like to think I would react.
Right.
I don't feel sorry for
myself.
him.
Like I admire him.
Yeah, exactly. I don't feel sorry for anything that happened to him. I sympathize and I empathize with him, but I admire how he come through it.
Okay, I'm going to paint a picture for you, and I want to tell you what you guys would do in this scenario. Say there was a national podcast that told the story of a poacher. And this podcast, the intent of everybody that's ever been on it was for the benefit of wildlife, wild places, adherence to the law, and integrity. And actually, a big theme inside of the whole podcast was integrity and character.
Yeah.
Let's say that guy that had that podcast interviewed a man who'd committed an egregious wildlife crime. And at the end of that, everyone felt sympathy for the poacher. How do you justify this?
I got you. I know.
I'm ready to talk about this
do you
too.
hear
Joe.
yourself? Do you hear what you're saying? I mean,
Yes.
like if you were an alien from another planet and you looked in my head and you looked at my life,
Yeah.
like I never had an outlaw stage. Like I've broken the law. I had a guy tell me the other day. He said he didn't know me. And he said, Clay, you're fascinated with poachers. Either you're an old poacher, or you are so not a poacher that you're peering into this realm with like a lot of curiosity. And I don't want to paint myself like a saint, but I mean, I'd never did stuff on purpose illegally, ever, even being exposed at a high level to hunting in rural America when everybody around me was. I say that to say, if you looked inside an alien could scan my head.
I'm kind of an alien.
Okay, and why? So how can we justify this? Because the only, I've got very little criticism for this. And how much criticism actually reaches you is hard to evaluate.
Mm-hmm.
Like we just have these platforms that people can communicate. But I've had some people say you were glamorizing poaching.
Let me say, I would like to say that was a human story, but for a listener, I think we listen to it as Americans. And as Americans, you've showcased it throughout your entire 3 seasons or whatever. How that outlaw, the frontiersman, the guy who's going to take a risk, the chance, all of that, that's a very American thing. I'm sure other countries have those kind of people. But as Americans, we like to see suffering and learn from it. Whether it's in sports, the guy that pushes the extra mile. You look at those marathon guys and maybe they're just struggling to get over the line. We admire those people that struggle. I will be the first one to say, I don't believe you find success without suffering.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you don't suffer as a small business person, you're probably not going to have a successful business. It's real hard for us to look at people who are born with wealth and think that they earned something. We want to see them suffer. It gives them some street cred,
Yeah.
And so as an alien looking down at Clay, my opinion would be that story taught us how to do things right.
Mm-hmm.
We've listened to his whole spiel. We feel like we know this guy. I don't know what he looks like. When I first heard Donnie Baker, I was thinking of the comedian with the mullet. And I thought, man, Donnie's something else. But
Wouldn't have been awesome if that was Donnie.
I think Donnie probably looks like all of us. I think his day-to-day activities are like all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we learned that don't be like Donnie in that one instance. But if you can recover from sacrifice like Donnie did, that's a high prize right there.
Well, if I understand the story right, if I was listening to all the legal issues part of it, the only thing he did was shoot that deer in a zone in the wrong spot because it was during deer season. He did it with archery, legal archery tackle.
And he had, he had a right to hunt on the base.
Right. So it was just one spot. So, I mean, that is just one.
Well, and then illegal falsification of where he killed it, which was big. So there's 2 major.
Correct. But as far as the act of what he did of shooting that deer, the only thing he did wrong was he was in the wrong spot. But he knew it. I'm just saying it wasn't like you talk about intent and all that stuff, and he didn't do it at night. He wasn't with a rifle on top of a building, like
Right.
somebody
There's been a
said.
little misunderstanding with some people, and I've heard it enough times that it's worth clarifying. People have heard me say Donnie didn't have intent, and they're like, "Well, yeah, he did. He shot a deer with his bow. He didn't just sling an arrow into the woods and accidentally hit it." It would have been better if I said premeditated
Right.
intent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I said basically I was
Right.
saying intent matters, and but there's not even a debate that premeditated intent
Right.
matters with punishment in the law.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Murder one, murder two.
Yeah.
We know this
Exactly.
from our 1990s rap days, right, Misty?
That's right.
I thought you were going to say Law and Order.
Well,
Mhm.
Law and
Yeah.
Order,
That's what-
Boom.
but also following,
Probably more Law and Order.
Law and Order, yeah. We got a lot of questions about Clay Newcomb now.
I'm not well versed on the gangster rap.
It explains the 2-pack shirt he's wearing right now.
murder one, murder two.
Clay, I thought it was some of the criticism that was like you're glorifying poaching and law breaking, and I don't understand that point of view.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing that was glorified about the illegal thing that Donnie did.
Right.
It
It wasn't like we were saying this is cool.
exactly. I think we were invited as listeners to have empathy for what he had gone through. We were also invited to put ourselves in his shoes and think about times when we had been tempted and how had we reacted. And it could have been, whether you were tempted to poach or tempted to, knock a couple strokes off your score on a certain golf hole or, whatever the case is going to be, right? You're always presented with temptation and, the magnitude of the sin, so to speak, or the transgression probably kind of informs how you react and what you do and things like that. But there was nothing glorifying about the conversation at all. And that's what, I think anybody who listens, hopefully, to this render and had made the decision not to listen to those 2 podcasts because it was glorifying poaching,
Yeah.
I would just ask them to listen to it from the standpoint of trying to learn something about yourself and about humanity, almost like you're having a mirror held up to yourself. Because I think that's what you really did with these is you kind of held a mirror up to all of us and said, give yourself a look and think about what you would do in the situation, or remember that time in your life when you were tempted, and did you live up to what you wanted to do? Could you have done better? Are you doing better? I mean, that's this is all stuff that I've kind of taken away from it. So it really that one piece of criticism that I saw, I think that you're talking about, of is glorifying law breaking. I don't think that was right.
I don't want to say too much because tax season's just around the corner.
It is if you're behind. In your business.
No, I think what people would say, what is, there's kind of a philosophy, and it would be clear, is that, nobody knew Donnie Baker's name before this, and now they do. So that would be glorifying a poacher. But the way, I got to give credit to my buddy Steve Ranella in some ways, not directly for Donnie Baker. He didn't know anything about it before it happened and whatnot. But years ago, I remember asking Steve about some controversial stuff that I've done that actually made the air. And for instance, in the Warner Glen deal, I brought up a little bit about the border wall. We were hunting right on the Mexican border.
Mhm.
We were like looking at the border wall. We were finding immigration, illegal evidence of illegals all over, just strewn over the landscape. And I was like, "Hey, I shouldn't talk about this, right?" And he was like, "Why not? You talked about it when we were down there hunting, didn't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's like all we talked about." And he was like, "Talk about it."
Yeah.
Several other times, I messaged Ranella one time and said, "Hey, is it okay if I play a clip of Alabama governor that was the lead racist in the world for a while, George Wallace, and his infamous speech about segregation forever." Like, I put it in there, and then I was like, "Holy cow! I'm broadcasting George Wallace's voice."
Mm-hmm.
And I literally messaged Ranella and said, "Can I put that on there?" And he was like, "Why wouldn't you? It's part of the story. It's building." I mean, and he obviously knew that it was going to tear that down. That gave me the confidence to stand in a story like this and just be like, "Hey, this is just the way it happened."
There's too much effort right now in our society to cleanse and strip difficult conversations, difficult things from our past or difficult things from today. We have to be able to sit together and talk about whatever the issue is. Some bad stuff. And it can be whatever. I mean, you have to be able to be in a place to compare and contrast, to think critically about what's going on. We have to teach our kids how to do this.
Got to enjoy liberty.
Exactly. That's exactly right, Joe.
And if you don't have liberty, you don't have freedom.
That's right. That's right.
Your liberty to showcase a story, right or wrong, that's liberty, man. That's what. Yeah. That's how we're sitting in this room. Well, is through liberty.
That's really the philosophy of the guy who was like, "You shouldn't have told this story." Is like, that's a no story, and we don't need to talk about it. And in his mind is, and honestly, I mean, there's some credence to that in the sense of that's in the zeitgeist. It's in the atmosphere because I picked it up like, hey, this is risky.
Yeah.
Nobody else is talking about stuff like this. But I talk about it all the time when the mic's not on. Right. Why wouldn't I talk about it now?
Yeah.
And I'm learning that those are stories that are usually really impacting and profitable if they're told in the right way, and
personally profitable, like internally profitable.
Yeah, not because you could be not economically profitable.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you said. Yeah.
Your sensors over here.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, just like if you look at the law as the mechanism for building morality, that's not how life works, right? It's community. Mm-hmm. Like the hardest thing the fine was nothing. It was going and telling his dad. It was telling all those folks that drove around that base. Yeah. He lost his dream job, and hey, I went to basic training. I went to BNOC there.
You were on Fort Leonard Wood.
I spent a good chunk of my military career at Fort Leonard Wood.
Did you see that, Buck?
No, but I knew that gas station that MP stopped at.
Really?
Yeah. But and it's like he lost his dream job, and if you feel like he kind of got like maybe hosed on that situation, like that's where like the chemical defense training facility, they got like chemical weapon precursors, and not being able to stay out of places you're not supposed to. The MPs had every right. I mean, that's a it's Fort Leonard Wood. It's not hunting place Leonard Wood, So it's
not a high fence, 61,000 acre high fence hunting.
No. And so they, but like with community, when one of my kids was horsing around on a 4-wheeler and he went on the county road last year or down on the street and he got hit and it just about killed him. And, he was fine. I mean, he was in a lot of pain and he was really, really bad hurt. Paramedics, police, all that around him. And he lost it when I walked up because he was more scared of me than anything going. And it's because he knew he'd violated my trust. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't anything like, I may never use my arm again or all that. It was just, I'm sorry. Like that was the first, and he was in kind of a life or death situation. Like the community aspect, and I'm outside of the hunting community, but I have one of my young men is boldly, eagerly stepping into it.
Can we talk?
Spence's son.
But that guy, he's in it. And so, like, outside of the community, what makes your community stronger is talking about this and realizing the shame that comes with it. the worst part is having to go and say, I did this.
Yeah.
Like I cheated.
Ready to win Mother's Day and cement your reputation as the best gift giver in the family? Give the moms in your life an Aura digital picture frame preloaded with decades of family photos. She'll love looking back on these memories and seeing what you're up to today. Even better, with unlimited storage and an easy-to-use app, you can keep updating mom's frame with new photos, so it's the gift that keeps on giving. And this is not a joke. Juju Newcomb has an Aura frame, and we share photos, and they're incredible. Also, my mother-in-law has one. We have them. They truly are really good, really high quality. The Aura frame is easy to set up. It takes just 2 minutes to set up a frame using the Aura app. It also adjusts the display depending on light levels in the room to maintain the true color of your photos. For real, the digital screen is amazing. Right now, Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. Listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $30 off plus free shipping on their best-selling frame when you use code BEAR, B-E-A-R, BEAR. That's auraframes.com. Use code BEAR at checkout to save. Terms and conditions apply. The old-timers say that the turkeys start gobbling when the leaves are as big as squirrels' ears and the red buds start popping. And we're about there. And we are there in the South. The Onyx Hunt app is one of my most valuable tools in the spring woods. With tools like coniferous versus deciduous tree distribution layer, you can save time by locating edges or transition areas of mixing habitats from home. Find an area like this with water in close proximity, and more than likely, there will be a gobbling turkey nearby. Knowing the exact boundaries of private ground ensures I stay on the right side of the fence, but can easily find public ground to go see if I can't strike a gobbler. If you do get one to sound off, using compass mode and waypoints will help you pinpoint his exact location, allowing you to move in and make the perfect setup to bring him right into your lap. Download the Onyx Hunt app today. You'll be glad you did. Onyx has a special offer for you. Use code BEARGREASE to receive 20% off your membership at onyxmaps.com/hunt this spring. We've all seen plenty of gadgets and fads come and go, but here's one product that stood the test of time: Seafoam motor treatment. Lots of hunters and anglers know that Seafoam helps engines run better and last longer. It's really simple. When you pour it in your gas tank, Seafoam cleans harmful fuel deposits that cause engine problems. I'm talking common stuff like hard starts, rough engine performance, or lost fuel economy. Seafoam is an easy way to prevent or overcome these problems. Just pour a can in your gas tank and let it clean your fuel system. You probably know someone who's used a can of Seafoam to get their truck or boat going again. People everywhere rely on Seafoam to keep their trucks, boats, and small engines running the way they should the entire season. Help your engine run better and last longer. Pick up a can of Seafoam today at your local auto parts store or visit seafoamworks.com to learn more.
Did you hear when he said that he was in the hospital after that broke leg and the nurse recognized him as being the guy that had killed the huge deer, but she thought he killed it. She didn't know he killed it illegally. Yeah. He's got a broke leg in the emergency room, and he tells her, yeah, but I killed it illegally.
And even that, like, he felt that need. Like,
I almost brought it up in the voiceover. I almost wanted to go, hey, did y'all hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He told the nurse. Like, he could have just been like, yeah, it was awesome and been a hero. That's what she presented it as. Hey, you're the guy that killed the big buck. And he's like, yeah, but
before you set that leg, I'm actually a fraud. You know, it's so there's something there. Like the $141. I actually think the way it worked out is more powerful than, well, they took your guns and your truck. It seemed because of the human impact. Because then you would feel like, well, he's been through enough. Yeah. But it's just that having to go back, losing his job in a poverty-stricken area. That's not like that's.
Right.
I'm poverty-stricken, but, you know, like that's a rural area. There's not a lot of good jobs
it's hard
like
to get
that.
A good job, yeah.
So I don't think he got off easy.
Okay, the white mastodon in the room was the $114 fine. Any comments on that? Like, do y'all that probably wouldn't have happened today? I don't think.
I kind of disagree.
Really?
because I thought a lot about this over the last couple of days. I think, I mean, after saying everything I've already said, I kind of hesitate to say it this way, but I don't think they knew exactly what he'd done until he confessed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's all they had.
Would you have thought that if I hadn't said it?
It took me, I mean, I've listened to that second podcast 3 times, and I only thought of this morning.
That's why James is here. Thank you, James. Bumping
So
those numbers.
checks in the mail. I think they knew that buck belonged. I mean, everybody knew that buck.
Yeah.
Okay? So they knew that. We know you didn't kill that buck over there. We can't figure out anything else, maybe. And I mean, I'm putting words in these guys' mouth, right? So I don't know for sure. But I honestly, you asked the question, would he have gotten a bigger fine? Not if they would have offered him, like, hey, you need to plead guilty to this, and this is what the fine is going to be.
I mean, if you think they'd have said,
they might have
you
kept
plead
trying.
guilty and we're gonna fine you $10,000, like they would have known he wouldn't have done it.
They would have known. They would have had more. I think they would have had more on him.
They would have had to have had more on
Yeah.
him. Well, that
I agree.
Yeah, you're the law enforcement guy.
I 100% agree. And I say that from a standpoint that I haven't seen that case file. But
Right.
judging by everything that was said, and that's the story that we have to go with.
Yep.
And knowing what I know about law enforcement and interviews and people
you said that the first time
from the very first get-go.
when I even just told you about the story, Brent said,
Yeah, they didn't have him.
yeah.
And I'm not saying anything toward the investigators that they didn't do a good job. Sometimes you don't have much.
Well, yeah.
They had 2 weeks. They had been working on it for like 2 weeks,
So,
right?
yeah.
He had been gone somewhere else, right? And then
Yeah.
when he came back, they wanted to talk to him. So I'm with Brent. Like, it's nothing against them.
No, it's just sometimes the clues ain't there. They're not
And there
there.
was probably something more important going on,
yeah,
like crimes against humans.
yeah,
And that could sound negative to the outdoor world, but that same deer could have tried crossing the road and got run over.
Yeah.
And no one would have cared about it. Someone would have said, "Do you see that big old deer dead on
Oh,
the
yeah.
side of the road?"
that's a shame.
Law enforcement has a lot to do.
Yeah.
Now, I say that with, you asked if the $114 was significant. I don't think most of us in the outdoors knows where that money goes. I know where it goes here in the state of Arkansas. If you receive a fine, that goes to the school district in the county that you
Wildlife fines, the money goes directly to the
Right.
school district.
and which is
Pretty
a phenomenal system. And that system is put into place so that way people don't think that the game warden's just out to meet a quota,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and to
Wise.
get them. It's to put a human side to the game warden, that he's protecting wildlife. I think that's a huge deal. I wish we knew where fines went to in all aspects of law and order.
Yeah.
But that's
Well,
a great.
I
what
just
you-
want to make sure. I just want to be clear when I say, regardless of if they had him or not, I don't personally think they did. But
Yeah.
sometimes you have to go with what you have to get a conviction.
Yeah.
When all things are come down, and but you don't know. As an investigator, when I know Clay did it. I know he did it, but I can't prove that he did it.
Yeah.
The rest of that falls on Clay to either fess up and cleanse his soul and try to do right by what he did wrong. And that's what I like about this story,
Mhm.
because that guy did it,
Yep.
Yeah.
and he didn't have to.
Yeah.
I really
Well,
don't think he did.
I said it, and I hesitated to bring the Missouri Department of Conservation into it, but in some ways I felt like I owed it to them.
For sure.
And then I also think I owed it to the listener. I reached out to those guys, and they were fantastic. I mean, I just glowing praise for the Missouri Department of Conservation.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't possible to talk to the game wardens that did the case. These guys are still active, still working. They're not retired.
Right.
And it's just not in their job description to
Right.
talk to podcasters.
From another state.
Yeah. And so I got it. I wanted to talk to those guys.
Yeah.
For what I was doing, that would have made the most sense to sit
Mhm.
down with someone and be like, dude, did you know Donnie did it? And that's just not the way it worked. I was contacted though by a very high level official he called me on my cell phone. He didn't know about the Bear Grease podcast. He didn't know who I was. For real. I was just a dude that he was calling that had asked about this crime committed in 2009. And he called me multiple times and talked to me about Donnie and offered to be a guest on Bear Grease. And it just didn't fit inside. Like this guy actually, he didn't know about the case previously. I mean, not everybody knows every single poaching violations that's happened in their state in the last 30 years. So he didn't know about it. He learned about it by reading about it and by talking to the guys that were part of it. And so I just didn't feel like it would make a whole lot of sense.
It would have changed the story. It would
Well-
have changed the nature of the story if you had
That dog.
Got a dog wailing.
He's just awkward.
Well,
just smushed up.
I just had to make an editorial decision to not include it. In anyway, I just give so much credit to them, and I hope they're not. I hope they're not upset with me.
Well, I mean, they had like 5 guys. I mean, as a layman here, I left with the impression they're very serious about deer because they had 5 guys working that. When my 4-wheeler was stolen, I could barely get one county sheriff deputy out here. But a deer is a big deal in Missouri. No one.
They're big deer, big deal everywhere.
4-wheeler theft is not, but it's one of
that's
those.
funny.
It sounded like Donnie's wife she's a big part of the latter end of this episode.
Yeah.
And that struggle with cancer, the willingness to go and try an alternate medicine, anything to survive, which I'm a fan of that whole realm as well. But for her to come from a stage 4 cancer, go in remission, come back and catch it again, the people we didn't hear from were those boys.
Yeah.
And you think about the sacrifice leads to success. Those boys are going to be some tough kids.
Mm-hmm.
They've went through a whole bunch, and they probably idolized their dad. They watched him fail, and it's super important that he succeeds to give those kids a crutch. Obviously the mom was there and responsible for the kids all the time while Donnie was out jacking around. They lost their mom. It's an amazing story, man. It pulls at every heartstring that you could pull at. I never knew that you were going to be like the Oprah Winfrey of the outdoors. But,
me neither, man.
Wow.
Check under your chair.
I
got a car. House for you.
Yeah, you.
How about
man.
how about the wedding dress and the and
That
the
was a
rabbit
good
dog?
story. That was a good Bear Grease story.
That was, and I'm talking about where they tried out this dog they couldn't afford, and she loved it so much that she said, "The money that I got saved up for my wedding dress, we'll buy that dog," and they did. And man, that was it hit me right in the old feels. And when I was already getting them punched up pretty good. But to me, that is an absolute demonstration of pure love. That she was giving up something that she had probably dreamed about as a little girl, but something that not only was she going to get, but she was going to share that with her husband. Man, that was strong.
And then how that dog became this thread that their family traveled all over, and they brought their boy. I mean, that was just such a big part of their boy's life. That dog lived 15 years, just died like last year, I think he said, or 2 years ago.
Yeah, recently.
And that was.
But that was something. I always talk about tangible things that you can reach out and hold, and they could pick up that dog that their mama had, that their mama loved, that their mama was the reason that thing was in their home. There's got to be a lot of connection.
This is one of those, all of us in the outdoors, we try to think about how we could bridge a gap to get to those who aren't in the outdoors. And out of all honesty, it takes stories such as this to put kind of the human side to the hunter.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Yeah.
if you were going to share an episode of Bear Grease or a series of Bear Grease to someone who's outside of this broad circle, this would be the one to share. And we need little pieces like this to keep the big mission going.
Yeah. 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 Okay. How surprised were you? I looked at the timestamps on this second episode, and there was 12 minutes left in a 56-minute episode before he started talking about Angela's cancer. Did it slip up on you, or was it foreshadowed enough? Because I'll tell you, going into it, I didn't know Donnie. I think I knew that he was married and that his wife had died. Like I just somehow picked that up from maybe even Facebook, looking at his Facebook or something. And so I didn't know that this was going to come up. Like it wasn't like I came in thinking we're going to talk about his wife. No. I mean, I thought I was interviewing a guy about killing a deer. And that's where it went. So I was shocked. I mean, I'm sitting there just like, holy smokes. Is that the way it felt to you guys? I mean, did you see that coming or no?
No.
Kind of looked like that
I
cloud
wouldn't
had
have
been
went to
over him.
Lowe's.
Yeah.
If I would have knew that was coming, I would have stayed in the sports
Would have went to Lowe's.
It was,
That's where Spence got caught up in the.
I was right there, just about to walk in the door.
No, I don't know how
He's
you
over
could
there
saw
looking
that.
at the
The flowers and
$9
stuff, yeah.
tube of fours, and
Weeping.
tears, and everything. It's like, golly, prices are high. Yeah, this Biden economy.
Well, you're supposed to be able to talk about true things. That is one.
You're gonna have to
The
edit.
economy's actually pretty good.
If you're selling lumber,
No,
Yeah.
yeah, I just wondered how it, because I didn't realize, I when I look back at the timestamp, like it was the last 12 minutes when it all happened.
I knew it was coming. I was kind of surprised that you hadn't. When I actually, because you told me how long the podcast was, so I kind of had in my mind how, and I thought, man, I think I'm almost done with this thing, and I haven't heard.
Yeah,
I haven't heard about his wife yet.
yeah.
Yeah, I was waiting for that part of the story. So
Now, did you know that was coming?
no, I mean, I thought you alluded to it in the first episode. That
Oh, I said he was a widower.
yeah,
Mhm.
The
So-
first episode, I that's right. In the beginning, I said he was a widower,
Mhm.
but I didn't. Yeah. That's right.
The foreshadowing, Clay.
Foreshadow, man. Yeah,
that's good storytelling though.
Oh shoot, what was I gonna say? Oh my goodness, I had something right on the tip of my tongue, and I got to thinking about.
Did you ask him if he
foreshadowing.
liked to eat squirrel?
No, he
Well-
should come to the World Championship Squirrel. Hey, do you know who said he's probably going to come? So the Black Bear Bonanza,
Joe Wilson.
Donnie Baker.
Oh, really?
Well,
Yeah.
we might need to get Donnie sitting next to Brent Reeves or something at that judging seat.
Let's not do that to Donnie.
Yeah. Let's just shake his hand and
Hey.
tell him.
He can come wear one of them wigs and come as the other Donnie Baker.
Man has been through enough.
How much squirrel did you eat?
Oh my gosh,
All
it
you
was
could,
good.
all you needed.
All I could hold, all they'd let me have.
Here's what I was going to say. The podcast just ends with
I thought it was a
his
great
wife,
ending.
with his
That-
wife
that was-
dying.
Yeah, the perspective.
What I didn't include, which I was a little bit torn, but I felt like I just felt like that story ended the story. It was just like in kind of people came to their own conclusion. Like I didn't need to sum it up with a VO of like these are the I usually would.
Mhm.
Like I usually would be like, here's what we learned. Here's I was just kind of like, that story told itself, made its own gravy. But what I almost included was about a minute section where he talked about his life today. And he has a really great job, and his family's doing well. And it's like, things are going well for Donnie, and he's actually That's all.
I'm glad you included that in this, because that was one thing that I wondered. I wonder how he's doing now.
Yeah.
Because I hope he's doing well.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that is a lot of closure for the folks that are listening.
Because with that hope, it gives somebody who did something wrong hope.
Maybe I can overcome it.
Yeah, that I can overcome it.
Because the deer thing is inconsequential.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. The only reason that is relevant is because we do an outdoor themed podcast. You were there. This all came about. I don't think it was coincidence. I don't think it was by chance. I think this story needed to be told, and the only thing that could light the fuse was the deer, because the deer to me is as inconsequential to this story as anything.
There's a guy on Instagram that said, "I've got a fever, and the only thing that can cure it is more Donnie Baker." Isn't that the Saturday Night Live?
Yeah,
It was
but the cowbell.
I got
Cowbell.
a fever. The only thing that'll cure it. When he said that, I was like, I laughed out loud. I don't know who it was. Good job, Instagram person.
Here's to you, Mr. Instagram.
But back to
Black Bear Bonanza.
Back to the Black Bear Bonanza. No, I wanted to do this backwards because I wanted us to talk about the Donnie Baker episode. Before we finish off, is there anything else? I mean, there's so much. We could talk about. Well, we talked about intent. We talked about the fines. The whole fine thing is important because that would make, if I didn't know this story and you told me a guy killed a big deer and got a $114 fine, I would be pounding the table saying injustice. And I believe that, I just can't help but believe that today that would have been different.
Might be.
But
and I don't
there's
think
also,
they knew. I mean, to their point, I think it's possible they didn't know that, like the egregious nature that he, hauled it out of there.
well, yeah, they did.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, they knew.
something wasn't right.
Yeah, I think they.
I
did.
think they knew he didn't kill it where he said he did. I don't think they knew he hauled it out. Do you see what I'm saying?
True.
I think that makes a little bit of a difference.
True. Oh, okay.
I wondered if when they heard the whole story, if they were like, well, shoot.
Yeah.
Opportunity missed.
We probably should have taken it. I wondered if it would have been different, but they said, this is how we're going to respond.
Ready to win Mother's Day and cement your reputation as the best gift giver in the family? Give the moms in your life an Aura digital picture frame preloaded with decades of family photos. She'll love looking back on these memories and seeing what you're up to today. Even better, with unlimited storage and an easy-to-use app, you can keep updating mom's frame with new photos, so it's the gift that keeps on giving. And this is not a joke. Juju Newcomb has an Aura frame, and we share photos, and they're incredible. Also, my mother-in-law has one. We have them. They truly are really good, really high quality. The Aura frame is easy to set up. It takes just 2 minutes to set up a frame using the Aura app. It also adjusts the display depending on light levels in the room to maintain the true color of your photos. For real, the digital screen is amazing. Right now, Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. Listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $30 off plus free shipping on their best-selling frame when you use code BEAR, B-E-A-R, BEAR. That's auraframes.com. Use code BEAR at checkout to save. Terms and conditions apply. The old-timers say that the turkeys start gobbling when the leaves are as big as squirrels' ears and the red buds start popping. And we're about there. And we are there in the South. The Onyx Hunt app is one of my most valuable tools in the spring woods. With tools like coniferous versus deciduous tree distribution layer, you can save time by locating edges or transition areas of mixing habitats from home. Find an area like this with water in close proximity, and more than likely, there will be a goblin turkey nearby. Knowing the exact boundaries of private ground ensures I stay on the right side of the fence, but can easily find public ground to go see if I can't strike a gobbler. If you do get one to sound off, using compass mode and waypoints will help you pinpoint his exact location, allowing you to move in and make the perfect setup to bring him right into your lap. Download the onX Hunt app today. You'll be glad you did. onX has a special offer for you. Use code BEARGREASE to receive 20% off your membership at onxmaps.com/hunt this spring. We've all seen plenty of gadgets and fads come and go, but here's one product that stood the test of time: Seafoam motor treatment. Lots of hunters and anglers know that Seafoam helps engines run better and last longer. It's really simple. When you pour it in your gas tank, Seafoam cleans harmful fuel deposits that cause engine problems. I'm talking common stuff like hard starts, rough engine performance, or lost fuel economy. Seafoam is an easy way to prevent or overcome these problems. Just pour a can in your gas tank and let it clean your fuel system. You probably know someone who's used a can of Seafoam to get their truck or boat going again. People everywhere rely on Seafoam to keep their trucks, boats, and small engines running the way they should the entire season. Help your engine run better and last longer. Pick up a can of Seafoam today at your local auto parts store or visit seafoamworks.com to learn more.
I don't know how you come up with what a proper fine is, because when I drive through the state of Missouri through a construction zone, there's a sign that says hit a road worker, get a $10,000 fine.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, that kind of sounds cheap as well.
Yeah.
It's true.
You know, so coming up with some sort of guideline on what you find somebody is, we don't vote on that.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the people. I don't know who the judicial system comes up with it, I guess, but it sounded low.
Well, today there's these poacher trophy fees,
Right.
which just weren't that. I don't know when they started, but 15 years ago they certainly weren't as popular. Today, I would say probably every state has higher penalties for killing a bigger animal.
Do you think that's to separate a guy who's hungry, who, say, shot a deer
Yeah.
because he needed food or to feed his family, he gets a $114 fine. A guy that went out and shot a 204-inch deer, he does.
Well, I think it's a response to the cultural frenzy and celebration of big animals.
You're right.
And we've valued big animals to such a degree. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I think it's interesting. And I
Yeah.
think you could if we were standing before aliens who didn't live here, you could make a case that it's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's equivalent to cultural value. Because if Donnie Baker had killed, he said it himself, I said it, if he'd killed a 110-inch 8-point like that, we wouldn't be telling this story.
Right.
We never would have known about it. And it wouldn't have been that big a deal because the deer was so big and there's so much cultural value placed on antler size. And with what we've seen, the craziness of what people will do to break the law, to kill a big deer. I mean, you know, there's a lot of stories. Misty, you said something earlier that I want to touch on before we get to the Black Bear Bonanza on March 9th in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Be there.
You said that you said that Donnie was different from like a standard poaching story.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
part of me, if you give me criticism, I have thought about that criticism immensely before it probably ever popped into anyone's mind. As I told this story, I thought, could I go to any poacher in America and tell an appealing story about their life?
Probably.
Okay.
Well, but
I don't
that's
think
bad,
so.
Joe.
I
mean,
know,
like,
but it's the truth. You could
well, but that's where it's like, dude, am I just
glorify.
spinning a story?
No, I
Because
don't
I-
think you could.
I did it with
Yeah.
Louis Dell and Charlie. I mean, and again, their
Not to
story.
great effect on all of us.
What's that?
Not to great effect on all of us.
Yeah,
Go
Britt
ahead.
didn't like that one.
Never did.
And again, I wasn't spinning the story. I was just telling it the way I saw it, which was these guys. We liked them, but they were also egregious poachers. I listened this week to a podcast that had a poacher on it, and I was like, I couldn't help this guy. Like, it made me realize how special Donnie was.
Yeah.
I went to another podcast that had a guy that was telling a story, and I was like, dude, I there's no story there. There's no there wasn't. It just made me feel confident that Donnie's story is pretty unique.
And you said Donnie told his own story. You didn't have to coach him or anything.
Right.
It wasn't like you were a defense attorney.
Yeah, and you
trying
need
to
I
make
don't want folks to get the idea. You said there's no way you could help that guy. You needed to explain that. You didn't go up there to help Donnie Baker.
No.
You went up there to let him tell. He contacted you
Yes.
about listening to us, and he wanted to. He said, "Here's a story."
Well, I mean, it wasn't even like that. He just volunteered that story. He wasn't fishing for. I honestly think the last thing on his mind that I was going to show up at his door. He just told me that he gave us a compliment on something we did, and he said, "Man, I got in trouble years ago," and that's when I said, "Hey,
That's what
Mm-hmm.
I want you to put out there.
Yeah.
That you
Yeah.
weren't trying to help him. You were just letting.
And the point of that
Tell the
whole
story.
story was that I think Donnie's story is very unique.
Yeah. I think it's unique too.
You couldn't do that with.
You
And-
couldn't have
and-
everyone tell their story.
And most
like that.
people's crimes don't eat at them. Like, I mean, that thing, he reached out to you. Like, that is a weird thing. It's because it was eating them up still.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's cleansing in transparency. And I think, like, maybe other people had forgiven him, but he still hadn't forgiven himself. Even hearing that, telling that story, you can tell that's still really a raw subject.
There's
But
a couple points when he, and I don't remember what the questions were, but there were a couple points where he answered a question that you asked him, and I think he was coming to a realization on something. So he was definitely still processing.
Yeah,
that stuff.
when I said it was ego,
Yeah.
and he said, yeah, I guess it was.
he's like, I wanted to be, everybody know I was a great. I killed it
Yeah.
because I wanted everybody to think I was like a great white,
Most people wouldn't admit that.
No.
I mean, we'd all know it, but they wouldn't have the guts to just like say that.
I think he's been thinking about it an awful long time to try to put sense to what he did and the outcomes from it. And I can identify with that. I mean, there's things that I did when I was, a teenager that I still think about, and I'm like, why did I do
What'd you
that?
do,
I'm not
James?
talking about it. I'm not.
On
I'm
the
not
next
ready to
episode of Bear Grease, our very own
Bear
James
Grease.
Brandenburg.
Bear Grease Confessions.
cheated at golf. No.
Now let me tell you
He
what.
killed a peregrine falcon with his driver one day on the putting green.
Oh, you got me. It was a sparrow. I shot a sparrow.
Randy Johnson and that bird.
Yeah.
No, I think that he's been wrestling with that stuff, and had thought through a lot of it and had a lot of it figured out. But there was a few things there that you asked him that you got him off, not to say off his game, because that sounds bad. You made him think about something from a little different angle.
Yeah.
And that's the point that last thing that I wanted to say on the whole thing was that the reason why you can tell those stories about poachers or outlaws or whatever it is because you don't bring it to us in a way of saying, hey, here's this cool guy, listen to this cool story. You always bring it to us and you kind of walk us through different ways to think about it, different angles to think about it critically, and then you leave it with us to decide how we feel about that particular story. And I think that's a different way of doing it. So instead of, hey, Joe Smith, the poacher's going to be on our podcast next week. You be sure to listen in and blah, blah, blah. It's not told that way, and that's the refreshing part of what you do. And I'm not saying that so I can earn a spot back here for next week's episode.
Would you like to come back next week?
I just think I'm just trying to probably speak for those of us who are out there listening and appreciate the way that you do what you do. Whether you're talking about going down the Mississippi River, as Brent's Cub pilot, or telling somebody's difficult story.
Yeah.
I know it's
I
tough to be
appreciate
his
it.
pilot.
Oh my God! You should have been the pilot.
Hey, I'll end the Donnie Baker conversation with this statement. Donnie, I think the last thing that Donnie would want us all to think about him is that he is a saint even today. Like he didn't there's a version of the story and reason you tell it and you make up this redemption story, or not make it up, but the end of it is like, I'm different now. I'm so different. I would never do that again. Distance me from that. Donnie didn't really have that deep of clarity on the redemption side of it in a way. But when he told his story, we could see it. It's like, yeah, you're way different. And I say that to say, like, it's not, and there were parts of the interview that just weren't as relevant to keep on there. Like it's not a fairy tale story of this like clean transition from this bad guy to good guy. I mean,
It's very Hollywood if you're expecting that.
Yeah.
that's not
And
really-
Donnie would tell me, he said, Clay, I wouldn't have been able to do this maybe even like 5 years after this happened. He said I was bitter, I was mad, I felt like they lied to me about my job. I was scrambling. Like, this is 15 years later, after all this stuff has happened in his life, after a long time of distillation, that he's come to this conclusion. And the conclusion was not, Clay, I'm perfect today. I even told you, I said, he's had some, what I consider, and somebody could debate me on it, and I'm not going to go into the details of it because I might punch him, is what I would consider minor wildlife violations that could have happened to anybody has happened to him since. I mean, he's not in outdoor media. He's not he's not trying to, he's just a guy that just like loves hunting, very passionate, very skilled bow hunter. And I mean, golly, it happens.
Great story.
Stuff happens.
Yeah, great
And
story.
so anyway, does that make sense? Is that okay?
Yeah. And I think, like, for me, just kind of one of the parting things is this episode kind of shook me. It shook how I look at myself, because you had a guy and he did this thing that just, looking back at it like that split season, like he could have killed that deer many times, but then one day it was there and boom. And I look back at successes that I had in my life that I hold on to, and I'm like, if that went a different way, like things that I'm proud of, I'm like, I might not have done it that way. I could have done it like a dirt ball and been a dirt ball like everybody else. And so I think one of the things it did for me is it really took my trust out of myself, like that I would always have that moral thing. Like, like that's not a given in any of our lives. Like, you can't rest on your haunches that I'm a great guy. Like, and it goes back to that phrase you started off with, David and Bathsheba crouching at the door.
It's a conscious decision.
And it's a warning. And I think that's why this is so powerful.
Yeah.
Because that you could step into what he stepped at any time if you're not careful.
I think about, like, with your kids, one of the things we talked about when this first came out is you tell your kids, don't go to the party. Like, don't be there.
Yeah.
Because you could say, I'm not going to do this, but if you're where it's happening,
Yeah.
you don't
much.
know in the right circumstances what you would do, and all the regret that will produce. So stay far away. Stay in another building, and be a mile away from it. And because it's true, you don't. And I think on this side of it, looking at this, it should produce humility for everybody. Not just like you don't know what you would do, but also what you've done.
Yeah, exactly.
We've all done stupid stuff.
What'd you do?
Yesterday. We want
It's
the
all
tea.
great. This
Spill the
has
tea.
been a great conversation. The Black
Bear
Bear
Bonanza.
Bonanza. March the 9th. Bentonville, Arkansas. Where is it at, James?
It's at the Benton County Fairgrounds this year. So we were moving venues. We outgrew the quail barn. So we'll have 2 indoor settings. Our food trucks will still be outside, but our main show that people would be familiar with will be in one building. We've hired an event production company to help us with sound and video this year, so people will be able to see and hear what's going on much
cool.
better.
Good.
So, we'll have, cooking demo and a deer butchering demo that, we'll have some video production to help out with so people can really see what's going on that kind of stuff. And then, of course, we'll record a render.
So the Black Bear Bonanza is the premier premium bear hunting event in the nation. That's what it is.
You're saying it's a big deal.
It is. And how much does it cost to get in? Like $10?
It's $10 for everybody 13 and over. So 12 and under gets in free.
Kids get in free.
Kids get in free.
And Brent and I was about to say Brent Newcomb and I.
Wow.
Playing Brent Newcomb.
I spent a lot of time
Not Clay
here.
Reeves.
This is big news.
Brent and I.
We've adopted Brent.
Brent Reeves and I will be there all day.
Yep.
Just hanging out.
Yep.
And we're going to do a live Bear Grease render podcast there. There's going to be the Arkansas bear biologist and other people from the Game and Fish are doing a presentation on Arkansas black bear.
That's right.
There's going to be a lot of vendors there.
Yep.
There's going to be snakes there.
There will be snakes there. There's going to be all kinds of stuff for kids to see and do and touch and
snakes.
Joe's
Everybody
out.
worth their salt.
Al hooting.
Owl hoot. Yes, I was going to get to that
the
too.
nation's premier owl hooting contest. Let me say that again. The nation's premier owl hooting contest. One day we're going to give away. One day, not this year. One day we're going to give away a major prize. Now this year we're en route.
Listen to the man.
Okay, so we're working on it. I doubt it's going to happen this year, but we're working on it. We've talked about a particular kind of prize, and there's a particular kind of enterprise out there that.
Could we be any more specific?
Yeah. I mean, but we all drove here today in trucks.
I will give away Banjo Newcomb to the winner of the 19.
No,
just kidding.
No, he won't. Stop.
No, Brent. So Brent's going to MC the world famous owl hoot contest. That'll be in the middle part of the day.
I'm a little jealous about that.
Man,
Where would Clay place? Brent,
there.
let me ask Brent. Where would he play? Is he elite? Is he?
Oh, he's a top tier.
He's top
outhooter.
tier? Okay.
Yeah.
Is
And the
Bear
reason
eligible
that is because he's practiced. It's like anything. The more you practice, the better you get. 10% of the things that come out of this dude's head is an owl hoot at any particular event.
But you don't get the best owl hoots are in a basketball setting.
Oh,
True.
Basketball.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Oh, I'm
So-
sure.
On the hardwood, that's where he's really at his element.
Someone was talking to
Every
me
time
about
Shep
the boys.
Newcomb or Simeon Spencer does a sweet move, which happens all the time, which Simeon Spencer is Spence's son. Oh! Well, I owl hoot as loud as I can, and Spence does his. Crow call. The opposing team has no idea what's happening.
But we'll go to like rural north central Arkansas and do it, and occasionally we get one back.
And this is not a joke.
That's
I mean,
good,
like
man.
how many games have we had this year?
Kingston
30?
is where,
We had
yeah.
30 games. I've out hooted
Oh,
900
yeah,
times.
Yeah. And then we go to
Let's see,
some
at
school
least four
districts.
times, 5 times per game.
One of the
30
moms
times
asked me
5.
this week on our team. She said, "Can I put in a request for different animals?" I was like, "Well, you can put it in. I'm not sure that they can.
Yeah,
they can
we-
perform." And,
Tell her no.
and we said, "I hope it doesn't embarrass y'all. When we show up to these things." And she said, "Oh no, it's not embarrassing." And with a totally straight face, she said, "It was very surprising the first time."
Me and Spence, we are so pumped.
Having a
At the last
LSD
game, we were the opposing team. We were at a stadium, and there was a whole 100 and something people, 60 feet from us across the way. I never saw a parent get up Like stand up. Like they would clap.
Yeah.
And
Like
they'd yell.
reasonable,
Yeah.
rational
Me and
human beings.
Spence. Whoa, I'm already fired up. I lost my. Me and Spence were standing the entire game, owl hooting, yelling, high fiving,
Gary.
fist pumping.
I went at Gary. I went, Gary, hit him with the Black Panther call, and he's like, Gary was in it too, man.
You know, the folks on the other side of the gym was like,
That was weird.
what's
So
y'all's
ridiculous.
mascot? Don't have
That's
one.
We're not doing
Let's
that.
not go there.
Okay,
The mermaids.
but it's not the owl. They're like, are we playing the owls? I didn't think we were playing the owl.
My dream is that one day when Shep or Simeon like do something major, that like everyone in the stadium will out hoot and crow call.
My mom, I got to tell this story, and then we could do whatever we want. But my
We're coming
mom,
back to the
we're
Black
coming
Bear
back to the Black
Bonanza.
Bear Bonanza.
We
My mom-
hijacked this from James.
We were in a game a couple of weeks ago, and we are intense. And Shep was actually explaining to Simeon, he's like, "This is my grandma. Can you imagine the pressure that's on me?" Her watch asked, "This is a non-conference, non-important game," but her watch said, "Are you okay? Have you fallen?" Because her heart rate was getting so out of control that they were like, "Oh boy, what is going on with this woman?" And
that's awesome.
this is his grandma.
The best though is when we've got this rapidly urbanizing area with a lot of folks coming out of state and some school districts up towards y'all's way, and so we'll go there, and when we hit it there, the other team's players kind of like
Freeze up.
they're not quite sure what's. It's just a little discombobulating to be in their life and hear
I don't know,
wildlife
man.
in the gym. So
James,
Yes.
world famous owl hooting
World
contest.
famous owl hoot contest at the Black Bear Bonanza March 9th, Benton County Fairgrounds in Bentonville, Arkansas. It's from 9 to 5. We'd like people to buy tickets in advance. If they buy
Okay.
tickets before February 15th, we're going to put them in a special drawing for a couple different raffle prizes.
Nice.
They can go to www.blackbearbonanza.com. It'll redirect them right to our website where they get the whole rundown on what's going on, and they can buy their tickets. We also have added a little bit of camping this year. We got the option
Okay.
at the fairgrounds to have camping.
Okay.
nice.
So nothing super fancy. So this is
Manage expectations.
essentially going to
Mhm.
be primitive camping. We'll have porta johns on site. We're not going to have. There's some running water out there, and there's a few electric sites, but this is going to be pretty basic. So don't come expecting like a total Woodstock festival campground experience. Okay.
Whoa,
Then I ain't
is that
coming.
the standard?
Joe's out.
I'm not sure that you're familiar with Woodstock. It's not known for being like the cleanest deal.
Well, I don't know if you've
with this mud we've had lately, it probably could be. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. Well, and so I just, I don't want people to get too high of expectations, but we've had a request for that in the past, and so we've got that available this year as well. So,
I kinda
Woodstock
seen
expectations.
A sneak peek at one of the prizes.
yeah, the knife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were
So-
going to say you get your own owl.
No.
I got too many of those
What
in
are
my
the
chicken
chances
farm.
we could get a live bear there?
I mean, we need to talk to our bear biologist about that.
We need a bear there.
I think we need to take that one.
They used to bring a bear to the Big Buck Classic. And,
Oh yeah, they sure did.
Like,
Those
like a
guys-
live
live
one.
bear in
Oh
the
wow,
yeah, they used to have one down there.
that'd be pretty cool.
I'm in.
So is there music or?
We're working on a little bit of music in the middle part of the day and then at the end of the day. And last year, Myron,
Brought
Yeah,
his
so
banjo.
Myron
brought us
Means,
in.
the Arkansas bear biologist, incredible guy, fantastic banjo player.
Very
We
good.
played music. I'm not sure if we're gonna play again, but there's gonna be some music. Trust me.
yeah, so we're working on a little bit of music.
Nice.
Our basic outline, the morning time will be all about our educational stuff. So kids come and see stuff and touch stuff. We're going to have archery range. Umarex is they're going to set up an air gun range for us so kids can,
Oh wow.
get exposed to some of that kind of stuff. Of course, all the furs and Game and Fish is coming with their big fish tank.
Fish tank,
So
fish,
tons
snakes.
and tons of
What about the
support.
goats? They gonna be back this year?
I bet we'll have goats. Yeah, I
The pack
don't know
goats?
for sure. That Snake Mountain pack goats. I'm pretty sure they'll be there.
Yeah, Casey.
And so that's kind of the morning time is all that educational stuff. And then over the lunchtime or right around lunchtime, we'll have a little bit of music. And then we'll have the state of the bears in Arkansas. and then we'll get into the render and we'll do some of that stuff in the afternoon, and then of course draw for raffle
It's a
prizes.
great time. It's a lot of fun.
How many folks? Like, what are you shooting for?
We had 850 people last year, and we'd like to be in that range, or maybe 1,000. Just transparently, we're trying to digest moving from one spot to another and kind of make sure we understand how traffic flows and all of that kind of stuff. I say that though, we're already ahead of schedule on ticket sales for this year. So.
You could fit a lot of people in a small space.
Yes, yeah. There'll be room. I mean, we're going to
World cook-off.
do everything we can to entertain every single person who comes out.
That sounds
there.
like a hoot. As a non-hunter, like,
Yeah,
it sounds pretty
Pun
fun.
intended.
I'll try to promote it a little bit too and get out there. I know there's a lot of people in my circle who want to come see it. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
It's
fun.
good, man. It's good. Thank you guys so much for coming. And
Thank you.
there's no Donnie Baker Part 3. So
Moving on.
Donnie Baker.
But he might. You said
Sorry,
he might be
Instagram
at Blackberry
guy.
Bonanza.
It's possible.
It'd be great.
All right.
Hey, one last thing. You go on that Audible, get that Long Hunter.
Mm.
I'm 3 listens into it. By the 4th or 5th, I'll be an expert. The part that got me was Daniel Boone was 40 years old before he ate buffalo.
Mm.
It was an odd deal.
Mhm.
I thought that guy would be eating buffalo every night.
Hmm.
So, yeah, great.
How old were you
great
when you
book.
started eating buffalo, Brent?
Let's see, 57.
Nah, thanks for listening to that.
That's
Yeah.
good.
That audiobook's
It
done
is
really
so
good.
good.
I got to thank everybody that bought it. A lot of people have bought it. A lot of people have supported what we're doing, and that's been awesome. It was number 1 on Apple audiobooks, like nationally, like not in like hunting books, like in
That's a big deal.
Oh yeah,
like all audiobooks.
beat out
for
Britney
a
Spears.
for a short time.
Beat out Britney Spears.
Yeah. There was a time when
I'm just saying that was unexpected in the late '90s when I was
There's
dating.
a-
Clay.
there's a
Yeah, when you're dating Clay, yeah.
there was a chart that Misty screenshotted that had me and Steve Ranella's name at number 1,
Yeah.
and Britney Spears' name at like number 6.
I
Yeah.
think number 9. I'm just saying.
Was that like the second stage of Clay and Misty's marriage goals? Is step 1 was to
Yes, we got to put this. I felt like what Clay
Oh,
said
we
on this
forgot.
podcast. Yeah, when he was like, I thought that when I listened to it, I thought, wait, is Clay saying that the mission of our marriage is why do bad things happen to good people because we got married and that was a bad thing? Like, that's what it sounded like.
You
to
were
me.
the good person.
Yeah, you
in that
could have been
story.
the good person.
Yeah,
and,
I was.
you know.
I probably was a good person in that story, but I
Oops, he
thought that
did
was
it
pretty
again.
funny.
You did
Just-
good, Clay.
It was just a random question that we had when we got married.
Yeah, we had a lot of funny stuff happen at the beginning of our marriage, and we were like, man, why do bad things happen to good people? And it just kind of became the catchphrase for a while.
And now he's whooping up on Britney Spears.
And
Yeah.
That sounds terrible, but
actually, poor
in the
Brittany.
audiobooks.
Outdoor adventure won't wait for engine problems. Things like hard starts, rough performance, and lost fuel economy are often caused by fuel gum and varnish buildup. Seafoam can help your engine run better and last longer. Simply pour a can in your gas tank. Hunters and anglers rely on Seafoam to keep their engines running the way it should the entire season. Pick up a can of Seafoam today at your local auto parts store or visit seafoamworks.com to learn more. Maui Nui is on a mission to help balance axis deer populations for the good of our environment, communities, and food systems on the island of Maui. They've shared over 126,000 pounds of nutrient-dense protein with the Maui community. Secure your spot now. Become a snack subscriber and join in helping to build more resilient food and ecosystems on Maui. Visit MauiNuiVenison.com. That's MAUI venison.com and use promo code BEAR for 20% off your first order.